star of my show this week is Quang. Quang Nguyen. It's really hard to spell his last name. First of all, he's a great father. He has a beautiful family and they love each other, and his daughter just graduated from the Marines. Yeah, talk about a patriotic family. So this friend of mine was in a war as a child in Vietnam, and I think everyone should hear his story. So
I still remember those images of the Tet Offensive. If you serve in Vietnam, you know what I'm talking about. It was back in 1968. I was about 6 years old, and a lot of you will probably be asking, how can a 6-year-old boy remember the war? I was just a little kid. Trust me, those images cannot be erased. And I can't even imagine what a young soldier from America leaving 10,000 miles away from home and fighting on my behalf.
Ladies and gentlemen, Quang Nguyen!
Howdy. Good to see you, Victoria.
Tell me what you're running for.
I'm running for the Arizona House of Representatives for my Legislative District 1.
Okay, is this the first time you've ever run for office?
The first time ever. First time thinking about it. The first time exploring. The first time reading and understanding. Talking to incumbents, mentors, voters. More importantly, I've been traveling, around speaking to voters and trying to learn the issue. And, I'm excited about it.
I want you to tell everybody what it was like when you were 12. You got on an airplane with American soldiers to fly away from the war in Vietnam to freedom. You had no money, no family. Was your brother with you?
Yeah, I had an older brother with me, and we were dropped off at the airfield by my dad. And it was pretty much that neither one of us understood what it was all about. So I got, my brother and I got on the C-130 in middle of the afternoon. My dad said goodbye. He may or may not see us again. And
you said the American soldiers loved you, took care of you, clothed you, fed you.
Absolutely. That it all happened. The American Red Cross, soldier, Marines, airmen, you name every branch. They were there to help us. And it was just an amazing. And then the American people opened up their arms for us as well. But I will tell you this, though. We stay on public assistance as short as we possibly can, because there's so much pride in how we got here and how we're going to conduct our lives from this point on. And we all wanted to be Americans as soon as we can.
Your family was reunited 6 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And you learned English, became an American citizen, got a college education, put yourself through college and started your own business and have a beautiful family. Hello! And your daughter. Tell me about your daughter.
Well, first, I'll start out with Casey, our son. He went on to college with a scholarship. He graduated from the University of Portland. My daughter is having a great time. She received an appointment to the U.S. Naval Academy in 2017, and it's 2020 now. She's an incoming senior.
Daddy enlisted in the Army in 1945. World War II was ending, so he was pretty sure he'd stay alive. He brought back stories of girls in Japan. Watakushiwa anatayo, aishimasu. In Japanese means I love you. You were a child, 6 years old, in the Vietnam War. And tell us what that was like.
Well, I was born in 1962 in Vietnam, and the biggest major communist incursion happened in 1968 when it was a total invasion throughout the South Vietnam, and I was 6 years old. So I lived through the whole thing. I actually lived through the entire war from until the very end, and I was very fortunate to be able to emigrate to the United States just before the fall of Saigon, 6 days before the fall of Saigon.
Have you ever heard the song "Goodnight Saigon" by Billy Joel?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
What do you think about it?
It's very touching. It's unfortunately it's a real event. Unfortunately, it did happen, and unfortunately, the U.S. Congress acted strangely about it, and until this day, those politicians that acted on it never come out and admit to their faults. You have 2 million people killed in Cambodia because of that single event, the fall of Saigon, and nobody would admit to it that it was a big mistake.
Well, what about the line when he says, in the middle of the fight, it doesn't matter who's wrong or right?
So here's my thing about the war, Victoria. You can have a debate whether or not it should happen. Should American come over? Should American not come over? So the debate is over. It happened. Americans did come. The fight started. It should have ended with the firepower that the United States provided. It should have ended, but politically it didn't end well. And so you have millions of people die for nothing, and you have over 58,000. 58,479 Americans wound up on the wall, and that's not right. We have to find ways to honor them for what they have done.
When Vietnam vets were coming home in 1975, I was only 15, just learned how to drive. I thought there'd be a big parade like Daddy's World War II, but everyone on TV disagreed on what to do. Don't you think when the Vietnam vets came home, they should have had a huge parade to honor them?
Absolutely, but it didn't happen. Now, just so you know, I met a gentleman about 3 days ago for lunch, and it was a group lunch. And he is now a conservative Republican, but in the 60s, he belonged to the Communist Party of America. And he told me something I didn't know. He said the Communist Party was behind all the protests during the 60s against the Vietnam War. I was suspicious, but I have never met anybody that said I was there and it happened. And so I was really surprised, and I just looked at him, sort of dumbfounded. But finally I met somebody that says, it was all pushed by the Communist Party.
Yeah, I could have told you that. Okay, hey. In second grade, my teacher said to hide under our desks if the bombs start to fall. But in 1991, we finally felt safe from the Cold War when Ronald Reagan told Gorbachev, "Tear down this wall." Now, I don't know much about war stuff, but no one really wants to do it. Sometimes you gotta do it to protect your family. And I don't what is it like to live in a communist country? And was your father in the war in Vietnam alongside the Americans fighting the communists?
Well, first question first. I never lived in a communist country. I lived in a communist war. So I don't know if there's a difference, but we were constantly at war with our enemy, and it starts from the time you wake up to the time you go to school. You have breakfast or dinner or whatever it is. The war is always there. Now, my father started when he was 16 years old. He started fighting the French, and when he was in his 20s, he fought the Japanese, and then back to the French. And then he fought communism from 55 until 73 until his retirement. My older brother was an airborne soldier from 68 to 75. So yes, the answer is yes, we fought alongside Americans. We were injured and we died alongside Americans.
And you all were fighting to keep communism from coming into South Vietnam?
Absolutely. That was the reason why Americans came over.
And how is it now? Is the North Vietnam communist and South Vietnam free?
No, not at all. It's all communist now. The invasion happened after the fall of Saigon. So now it's a communist country.
9/11 came, we were attacked on our own land. Congress prayed together for the first time publicly. We needed God's wisdom like we had in days gone by, and like we will in days to come, and like we do right now, to fight another evil enemy. There's a lot of young people I'm in college with now, and they think communism and socialism is groovy and cool. How would you explain to them that it's a bad, terrible thing, and that
Well,
free?
it's never changed. Socialism is is basically, in my opinion, baby communism. So it's a stepping stone to communism. The only difference is, like I've been saying back in 2010, is the only difference between communism and socialism is one has an AK-47 already and one is trying to get one. And if you look, we had my TV on back there earlier. You can see that chaos is coming to America, across every big city that you're seeing. And, that's just a step closer to communism. And if you look at US Congress, if you look at the majority of the government running from the left, they're pretty close to socialism and communism, if you ask me.
And I don't know much about war stuff, but nobody really wants to do it. But sometimes you gotta do it to protect your family. And I don't know much about war stuff, but it sure takes a lot of courage to stand up and protect America, even unto death. The socialists / communists in our Congress, in our country of America, their goal, Rules for Radicals, the book, their goal is total government control. Is that their goal?
It's always been that way for years. Their goal, if you give them an opportunity, if you look at COVID-19, look at all these governors. The minute you give them a little bit of power, they actually dictate the losers and the winners in this economy. I mean, when you look at 40% of small businesses may never come back again. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody's got to be sitting up there smiling, right?
Mm-hmm. What is the opposite of communism?
Oh, when I came here in 1975, it's, I found out what it was like to have freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, You have the right to keep and bear arms. You can criticize your politician without having worry about somebody arresting you. So, in my view, freedom is the opposite of everything I experienced in Vietnam. There's always fear of war. There's always fear of chaos, fear of the government, fear to speak your mind, And what's great too? We haven't experienced lines of, to buy food and toilet paper until a couple of months ago. So there's a small picture right there of socialism and communism. And if you enjoy waiting in line, you can only buy 1 or 2 packets of meat. If you enjoy that, there's a tiny little window to socialism there.
What would I call the opposite of communism? Would I call it capitalism? Would I call it free enterprise? What would I call it?
Oh, capitalism, free enterprise. You said the 2 perfect words right there. I mean, just the fact that you're living free and you don't have to worry about the next meal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so guess who made it all the way up the uphill path to the first bench? 86-and-a-half-year-old Marlene. She made it, Marlene.
Yes.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
Can you celebrate with a song?
I can't think of any. Like what? Let's see.
You're sitting on
Thank you, Lord, for saving
my soul. Thank you, Lord,
for making me whole.
thank you, Lord,
for
giving to me
thy great salvation,
so rich and free. You like this spot?
It's so beautiful, I can't contain it. I love the trees. I feel like stripping because I'm so hot.
Oh, well, you'll cool off.
My clothes are too hot.
Winning an election, you do need money, and every dime of it is definitely gonna go towards campaigning, getting the message out, making the phone calls, creating TV commercials, and those things. What I want to say is, we can't just send rhinos or Democrats down to the House. Did you know that we're just barely leading at 31-29 at the Arizona House? I want to go down there and be the conservative voice. And it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of money, and that job is poorly paid, by the way. I just want to go down there and serve. I want to be advocating for my community. I want to be a good representative. I want to be that conservative voice. And I want to win the election so that, there's so many people that sacrifice for where I am today, American veterans. I want to give back to them as well. I want to represent the Vietnam veterans in my district, to have that conservative voice. Before you hit the donation button, read the profile, read the platform, see where I stand. And I am the true conservative voice. I consider myself a true conservative voice Either you're conservative or you're not conservative, and I don't believe anybody that's kind of halfway.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in that. And so you can read the endorsement. And by the way, Colonel Allen West, bless his heart, he's recovering, and he endorsed me. He was one of the first people to endorse my campaign, and I'm very proud of him.
Yeah, he just had a motorcycle accident, right?
That's right. And I left him alone for several days. So finally, a couple of days ago, I texted him, and he texted me back. And he said he's recovering well. He's a little bit hurt, but he's recovering.
Oh, well, I want all the people in the world to know your story. I admire you so much. You're a Christian, conservative, family-loving, pure-hearted, grateful man, and I'm so proud to know you.
I am so proud to know you too. And recently we just did a little food drive, 4-hour food drive, just 4 hours. And I got together with a couple of local politicians and the Knight of Columbus and St. Vincent de Paul. In 4 hours, we got $3,500 of donation and 1,200 pounds of food donated to the pantry. So this community is wonderful. We all get together and do it. And Americans are generous in nature. So, we don't really need government help all that much. I like to see the government, including myself, get out of the way. Just get out of the way and allow business to grow.